I meant to apologize for the messiness of this. I have an animation desktop. I hadn't learned to use it yet, and this was a very generic paint shop version of what happened that day. And I apologize for that. And I'm gonna go back over, like I said, some more of the evidence I have with you. Here was my, again, this is a public record. You can get it from the library. It was like the phone book, but it's a address directory. There's my father, Conrad. Um, Again, 5513 Rialto Boulevard. There's the perspective from his house is the brown house with the tan roof on the bottom of the screen. You can see it to the right there in the second picture. And I told you that I had written to several other people. The lawyers wouldn't listen to me. I wrote USA Today. I wrote to the President of the United States. I wrote to lawyers. This is a letter to a lawyer, actually. And then I'll show you a copy of the letter where they declined to represent me. And again, nobody believes what I was saying. I wrote to the head, the head of the Supreme Court was William Rehnquist. I wrote to the president, and here's a copy of both pages of the letter. You see that on that picture, I still have Lucas as the last name. I had not figured out his name was Emberger yet, and I even had the dates a little off, but I figured that out later on. And here's another crude copy of the piece of paper that I will have dated to 1974 and prove that I knew Jedi Knights in the Force 3 years before Star Wars came out. And if you notice here, it says Rialto Boulevard begins. If you look above where I highlighted the names, and I only knew some Davenport, so I didn't mean to highlight. I shouldn't have highlighted his name. Again, that is from public records you can acquire from the Louisville Public Library, and I'm going to show you how to do that. And I believe if you live in Louisville and you have a library card, you can look at these documents for free and copy them. But if you're out of town, you have to pay for them. In retrospect, there's a couple more pieces of evidence I'm waiting on, and there's other ways I can prove that what I'm saying is true still, and if that need be. And the fact of the matter is, you know what happened, I know what happened. I tried to tell a couple people back in 2000, 2001. I made the mistake of telling people without really having any of the evidence in my hand. And I worked with a couple of them. They kind of ran their mouth, and I became a joke. And I decided that the next place I worked, I wouldn't do that. So when I moved jobs, one of the guys was there already. I've been there for 12 years now, and it's still a joke, and I'm still getting laughed at about it. It's not something I can escape. It's every day. I turn on the TV, there you are. I turn on the radio, there you are. I turn, to when I go to work. I mean, they were writing it on this bench so bad that they had to repaint the bench to cover it up. I mean, there's just no way I can ever escape this, and no way. I have to tell the truth. It just can't stay this way another 40 years. I don't want to deal with it for another 40 years, and I can't do it. I have to live with this and every day, and it's not something since I remembered and started remembering. I can't just let it slide. I can't. So you may or may not understand that. Anyway, the fact of the matter is, there was a few things I meant to mention. My parents were divorcing in '73, and they were going through a lot. There was a lot of tension between her and my father, and we moved to Florida right after this incident. And when they fixed my mouth, and I didn't tell you about this in the video, they held the palate of my mouth up with hemostats, and they used this adhesive, and the roof of my mouth was like plastic, even when we were still in Florida for almost the whole time. Right after that, we came back to Louisville, and that's when when we were in Florida, is I put that on a piece of paper, and I guarantee you that there is some sort of pollen that is pretty, unique to Florida on that paper, so that'll probably also be discovered, and to prove that was 1974, and the date of the paper itself and the ink. He told me he could tell when both of them were put together as well. So um, that's a forensic specialist I talked to. And anyway, he said he could date that paper pretty accurately. So I moved back to Louisville. My mother was having problems. We all ended up stuck in a foster home in 75. We spent almost the whole year of 75 in foster homes. My older brother Vince was stuck in a separate one in Somerset, Kentucky. I was in one in Caneyville with my younger brother. And the lady there was very nice. You know, she made us go to church every Sunday. And she was a very nice lady. And I still miss her. You know, it's not something I'm sorry that happened. You know, you sort of are and you sort of aren't. You know, there's an irony in this whole thing. And that brings me to my next point. You know, over my life, and I'm not blaming you for everything that happened, but I still feel like that, you know, life, you know, gives you paths, you know, and you take them when you get to them, you know. And I believe at some point there were probably times in my life could have been a little different had you kept your word and done what you said you were going to do. You know, there's a lot of times when instead of the worst, I could have had the best, you know, and I think that you have a lot of responsibility in that, George, and if you had kept your word, you know, and that's what this is about, you know. You make a deal with a kid. I wasn't a stupid kid. That's why I went and put it on paper. 7 years old. I wasn't that dumb, you know. I might not have known the word for rebar, and that may have caused, with all the things that happened to me, that caused me to forget. And this is another thing I wanted to add in. In 1977, we ended up back with my father, and he took us to see Star Wars. We waited in line, and when we were in the middle of the movie, right where not in I don't know if that's the middle, but they were sitting in the cave. I believe that's the first time he says Jedi Knights, and he said, your father was a Jedi Knight. And I looked at my father. I go, isn't that my game? And he goes, no, that's his. And I put it that's the last time I remembered until 2000 when my mother started telling the story about me falling on the stick. And I'm like, that's not what happened, you know. And that's what brought all this to light. Had Jack Hamburger Jr. not almost killed me with that piece of rebar, I probably would have never remembered this whole story. And I wouldn't have remembered what you took from me. I wouldn't have remembered any of it. So I don't think you really want to be a bad person. And for you to try to continue the lie would be a proof that you maybe aren't a good person, you know. And because you know the truth is the truth. You can't run from it forever. It's the truth. And I'm going to end this video with that. And George, you do what you think you got to do. You know, I can't tell you what to do, certainly. But I think you need to remember one more thing. And that is, some people don't believe in God. I do. You know, I think you do somewhere. And God used me as a tool to give you what you needed, I guess. You know, you took that and you didn't, you know, reciprocate, you know, what you offered, you know. And I think at some point that's going to not look so well on you, you know. And like I said, there really is a force, for those of you who don't know. And again, it is the will of God. It's not some energy that just passes through us like he changed it in the movie. Maybe it is a force that passes through us. Who knows? But that's between you and God, you know. That's between you and God, George. And that's between everybody out there. You can believe this or not believe it. But that is what I believed, and that's what the angels in my dreams used to tell me, and that's something that I forgot for a long time, you know, and it is the truth. So I never really, I don't know if he ever really thought he was going to keep his word, or if it was something he never planned on doing, or if maybe the incident that happened right after scared him. Maybe he thought that people would think that Jack and him plotted to kill me, and that would make him look bad or, something. But I really honestly don't think that's the case. I don't think Jack uh, plotted with George Lucas to kill me. I think he was just a mean kid, and he almost killed me with a piece of rebar. You know. Um, Also, I wanted to mention that right after my mom told me that story about falling on the stick, we were going through our stuff, and that's when I found the piece of paper as well. So even if she had never said that story, at some point I would have probably remembered based on that piece of paper. But not to say that I wouldn't, because she thought that my nephew Davy did it, and so who knows? Maybe I would have never remembered, but I did just because of what Jack Hamburger did. That's why I remembered.